Hi guys, so I'm here with Mike, otherwise known as Rosedale. So how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you, Chloe?
I'm very good, thank you. Can you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your music?
So, like you said, my name's Mike, and my band is called Rosedale. Uh, but I'm really the only actual member of the band. I have like different session musicians that will come on tour with me and play guitar and bass and drums for me. Uh, and I've been doing this for close to 12 years. Uh, and my music is sort of like pop, alternative, emo, punk. There's a bunch of influences tied together, uh, and yeah, that's basically all I do.
And so you say that you started 12 years ago. How did you sort of get started?
um, I just sort of went to shows all over, close to me, and bigger shows. My dad would take me to big shows, and um, I guess my own music sort of came about when I was about 13, and I met up with an old drummer or an old kindergarten friend that I hadn't seen for a while, and I heard that he had been playing drums. So we just started jamming together, and then I started trying to get all my other friends to play instruments, and um, but basically I started playing piano when I was 7, and my mom sort of forced me into that and wouldn't let me give it up. So yeah, it's kind of been always a part of my life.
And how would you say performing with, I suppose, as yourself versus a band?
Um, I mean, recently it's been a band most of the time, but there has been a couple years that it's been really off and on, and I've played a lot of shows solo, um, which I personally, the idea of it, I find it strange, and I think a lot of people do. But I basically just set up a light show and my rig, which was like a piano and a guitar amp and a laptop, and I pre-record all the bass tracks and I send them through a bass amp, and then I have the drums and the strings and everything else that I have with the band going through uh, just a stereo send into the house PA. So it's kind of like a one man show, almost like a karaoke sort of thing, except it's all my own original music. But I don't know. I did it as kind of an experiment for a couple shows because I had no option, and it actually worked out really well. And people were like into how original and I guess bold it was that I was going up there by myself. So I continued doing it for a while, and I had some success on the Warped Tour doing it, and um, I think that a lot of people were just like kind of influenced and inspired by just doing what I want. So yeah, that's it's not something I want to continue to do. I think that the sort of gimmick aspect of it will sort of dissipate, but maybe it already has. But at the same time, I'm glad that I'm able to play shows whenever I need to or whenever I want, and sometimes it actually works out better touring by myself or playing a show with a bunch of other bands by myself. So, I don't know. It's interesting.
You're about to release your new album. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, I've been working on it for so long, and it's basically a story of Rosedale. So I left it self-titled as Rosedale. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like from when I started playing my first show and how ridiculous our music was back then to uh, where I am today, and how kids will give me their CD and ask me to listen to it, and I've kind of become what I always looked up to, which I think is sort of cool. So it's kind of a story from starting from nothing and becoming something that you wanted to be, and realizing that it's still not enough and you always want more. And yeah, it's just story of my life, basically.
Do you have a particular favourite song on it and why?
Yeah, well, it's always changing. I think right now, like lyrically, my favorite song is Sustain, just because it reads like a storybook from the beginning to the end. Um, and I've never really written a song like that, so I'm sort of proud that it worked out that way, and just the message that that song has is something that I'm all about. But musically, um, I would say Quicksand or Thin Ice, which are two songs that haven't really been released or heard yet. But they're just very, like, I think they're just different than
Mm.
what everybody else has been doing. And they're, like, really orchestrated, and there's a big symphony behind them. And I just put a lot of time into those songs, and I'm really proud of what they sound like.
What can fans expect from the album?
Um, I think it's going to be inspiring for a lot of people. I think the songs that already have come out, um, that's sort of the message that has gotten across pretty well. So, yeah, I just think that it'll be sort of a motivating um, album for people to listen to and enjoy and drive and do whatever they do in their normal life. I think it's an easy listening album, but it's also like got a really powerful message behind it.
Speaking of inspiring people, what sort of advice would you give to up and coming bands and artists who are sort of coming through the ranks of the local scene?
Um, I always say just keep on working hard and don't let things get distracting. I think that's the biggest thing is it doesn't feel like a job when you're practicing and you're writing and you're doing all the things that are important and being in a band. So oftentimes when distractions come along, you're just kind of like, oh well, yeah, I've been doing this for enough time today. I'm gonna go do, this stuff with my family or my girlfriend or whatever other, things that make us happy and people with normal lives get to do all the time. When you're an artist, it's like you almost have to put yourself in a dark room from everybody else, and um, the reward is worth it. But I think that there's so much sacrifice that people don't realize that they have to do. But as they're doing it, it's actually really fun. So it's kind of a bittersweet life.
And what do you want to achieve over the next 5 to 10 years of your music career?
Um, I would like to start playing to bigger crowds. I think that live music is sort of dying, especially in the rock world, for independent artists especially. So I would just like to not only change that for myself, but change it for the whole scene and kind of bring it back to what it used to be. In a lot of these countries that I just recently saw, it's kind of the same thing. And I don't know if it's sort of just the internet to blame or how people react to media, but it's just kind of sad that there's not these like small DIY shows packed full of people like there used to be when I was growing up.
And speaking of live shows, are you planning on doing any this year?
Well, I have a tour with the album coming out, um, and a lot of it still isn't booked, but we have kind of a routing and some leads and bands that we know are gonna play the shows with us. So um, it'll probably be like a full U.S. couple months, like March and April. But the album release show is here in Toronto, February 25th. And yeah, then we basically just make our way down to Florida and then over to the West Coast and then back. So should be back before summer and then touring who knows where. Hopefully somewhere cool and far away again.
And I suppose, again, what can fans expect from one of your live shows?
There's a lot of energy, especially when there's a good crowd there. Like I'm really like a production junkie. I like having a lot of lights and a lot of gear, and um, I think that that's sort of the big thing I bring to the show is like, even if it's a small little house show, I turn that place into a big concert hall. So I think that that's something that fans often appreciate about my show, is that like our light show is timed perfectly to every hit of the song, and I put a lot of time into that. So I think that that's exciting.
And what are you excited most for this year?
I'm just excited to play a lot of these new songs. Um, a few of them were only really demoed out in the studio and then recorded in the studio, and I never really played them live, or even like with a band in a rehearsal space. I have a good idea of what I would play and what they would play, but I'm just excited to finally like get past the few that we've got so far and on to the next ones, and hopefully be able to like play some bigger headlining tours where we get to play all the songs, or at least close to all of them.
And finally, describe your music in 3 words.
Um, I guess I would say aggressive power pop, because it's pretty poppy, but it's also really loud and angry sometimes, and also powerful and meaningful. So 3 words is very short. As you can tell, I like to ramble on.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with Shout It Loud TV, and
Thank
I
you.
hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for having me on.